Go. I think we're live now. Something happened where my phone completely froze, so I'm not sure if that first part of the live stream was working. But anyway, we got some different trains operating on the layout here. We've got this mixed freight. We got an Amtrak passenger train, and even a streetcar. Let's clean things up a little bit. I want to start expansion on the layout pretty soon in terms of actually building out the whole yard there. So I'll probably get working on that within the next couple of weeks. Looks like we've already got some people joining in. Welcome, everybody. Don't. Oh, I'm gonna have to expand it somehow. I bought a new bridge. If you saw the last video, which I'm hoping to install there. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm watching this at work. Right on. Good morning. Somebody must be in a different part of the world. Although their channel's called Montreal, Maine, Atlantic, so I'd assume they're in the same time zone. And as always, can you run an Amtrak train? There's already one out on the layout. It's just hidden behind the mountain right there. Hello from Winnipeg. This is fire. Thank you. How are we feeling today? Pretty good, pretty good. It's nice to be down here again running some trains. Can you run the Blue Goose? Yeah, I don't see why not. Get that going in just a second here. I love the Amtrak. Weren't you going to put a yard in the middle? Yeah, I was just talking about that. I'm going to try to install some sort of a bridge and then add the yard on. I'm not sure how I'm going to connect it up on the other side right now, but I've been coming up with some other ideas for the expansion of the layout as well. I was thinking in a previous live stream about actually building some sort of a like a climbing section, which is going to go around here. And I was thinking it would actually run over the existing track and then come through here. And then possibly actually having a piece of suspended track going through the industrial section. And that would mostly be for running subway cars and stuff. I have no idea if that would actually work that well, but I don't know. A lot of ideas. What do you think about Walthers? I really like them. They're not the cheapest out there, but I think for the money they're pretty good. I definitely like their train line locomotives, and their higher quality stuff seems to be great as well. When I was at Larkspur Line, they were talking about how popular their sound equipped locomotives are, especially with youngsters getting into the hobby. So great to see that they're taking a share of the market. You should run a Dash 8 or a Gevo. All right. Is there any good cheap model trains still on sale? I mean, there are still deals out there. They are getting harder to find though in the used market. Like I found a few years ago, it was really easy to find cheap lots, and online that's practically impossible now. But if you know about any like model railroad flea markets in the area, that's usually where you can find stuff pretty cheap. You just need to be waiting until there's somebody who wants to get rid of a ton of stuff, and if they want to be rid of it, they're going to be willing to sell it pretty cheap. Couldn't you build a bridge right off the switch? Yeah, that's the idea. I'm gonna have to change the angle of it a little bit because right now, like where it's kind of pointed, it wouldn't line up well with the yard. But I think if I have it go straight out, curve, and then come back in, I think it's gonna work. But I want something that I can load larger locomotives up, like the big boy. Honestly, the Rivarossi big boys can actually handle pretty sharp corners, so it might not even be a problem. But I just don't want to put any radiuses that are too sharp, otherwise, it's gonna lead to issues. Why is it so hard to find IHC 282s at a good price? I mean, they will go for cheap, but whenever you're looking for something specific, that's always a little bit harder to find a good deal. Yeah, I find you can usually find the IHC locomotives for about $100, and honestly, I feel like they're worth it. Very reliable steam locomotives in my experience. They don't require a lot of maintenance, so if you're willing to spend $100, I feel like it's worthwhile. What's your opinion on Broadway Limited? They seem decent. truth be told, I haven't worked with an insane amount of their stuff. I'm not a big fan of their older style of sound decoders. Those things are a nightmare to program. But other than that, I feel like they're a decent brand. I love the streetcar. It's a fun part of the layout. Good evening. The layout's looking nice. Thank you. What are your opinions on Kato and Atlas? I like them both a lot. Kato's have a terrific reputation for being reliable. I know in the N scale community they're very popular. In HO, a little less popular, but they still have a very good reputation. And Atlas, I would say, has a very good reputation as well. Their older engines are great. Their new ones are still good. Um, yeah, nothing bad to say about either brand, honestly. Have you fixed the Union Pacific Big Boy? No, that's still on the repair dock. I'm making an N scale layout. What track and transformer do you recommend? In terms of track for N scale, I don't feel like I've worked with enough of the different brands to really say. In terms of a controller, though, I know that Kato has some pretty good N scale controllers. Maybe go with one of those. Depends, of course, too, if you're looking for DC or DCC. If you're looking for DCC, maybe like a Digitrax 52. I'm pretty sure those are N scale compatible. If anybody in the comments wants to share their thoughts on that, though, please feel free. I just ordered my big boy. It's been a while since I caught one of your live streams. The track is looking good. I hope all is well with the new house. Yeah, so far things have been going pretty well. A lot of work outside the last few days. The snow has finally melted off here and just been cleaning up tons of sticks and leaves and things like that. Just trying to tidy things up. But it's getting there. SMT, you're the goat. You told me good dimensions for a layout in your email. I'm happy to hear that. Why are lifelike locomotives so hated? I mean, they're not very high quality. I personally like them because they weren't sold for a crazy amount of money, and I find because they're so simple, they're actually not too bad from a reliability standpoint. But I mean, the wheels oxidize easily, so they have starting issues. They have plastic wheels on the front, which if you drop them can crack. They're kind of noisy, so for any serious modeler out there, they're not something that are very desirable. But I feel like they get more hate than they deserve, to be honest. Like it drives me kind of crazy when people compare a top of the line locomotive to a lifelike. It's like, well, yeah, there's a five-fold price difference. Of course, the engine that costs $200 is going to be better. So I feel like something that's always important to keep in mind is what were these things being sold for when they were brand new? Which track manufacturer do you recommend? For HO scale, most of my track is Atlas, although all of my switches are by Pico. I really like Atlas for the curves and the flex track. I find it gets the job done. But for switches, in my opinion, Pico has the edge. How's the new house? I think the basement couldn't be better for your layout. So far it's been working out pretty well, I would say. Looks like we got a super chat here. I'm just gonna try to open that before it disappears. Unitrack is the best for N scale, and the DCS52 is compatible with N scale because I use it. Well, there you go. We have a steam engine to run. Yeah, I was just about to put this on. I was just got to figure out how to couple it up because it's got a horn hook coupler, and the cars are knuckle. And this car, which has the different couplers, is being used on that. So I'm just gonna have to see if I can find another car to do that job. Do you miss your old house? I sure think so. Not terribly. I mean, that house is not out of my life. My parents still own it and stuff, and so I'm free to go over there and so on. I mean, I have a lot of fond memories of operating the layout down there for many years as a kid, and I still care about that house a great deal. But in terms of just running trains and stuff, I'm pretty happy with this place. Is it the older Bachmann engines that have split axles or the new ones? Generally, it's just the older ones. That was more of a common problem with their 70s and 80s era stuff. On some of their modern things, like some of their new street cars, they still have that issue. They haven't resolved it after 50 years of having that problem, which kind of boggles my mind. But if you buy like a brand new Bachmann steam engine or diesel, is it something that's going to occur? I'm sure you're going to get at least 20 years before it happens, so I wouldn't worry. I bought an HO scale English switch from Pico and I'm glad with it. Roku is nice too. I'm trying to get rid of steel Mahano track. Yeah, that's understandable. Looks like I got another super chat. I'm trying to install a decoder on my Athearn here soon. Wish me luck. Well, I did do a video installing a decoder on an Athearn, so maybe that would be helpful. The Athearns are not the easiest to install DCC on. It's not impossible, but definitely not as simple as some of the other engines where you just plug the decoder right in. I'm just looking around because I had another car which has the two different styles of couplings on it, and I'd love to find that so I can try to get this guy moving here, but I'm not. Oh, actually, I think I see it. Yes. How do I glue the handrails on an old AHM locomotive without it looking bad? Take some crazy glue, pour it out on something you can throw away, like a bottle cap, and then take some toothpicks and dip that in the crazy glue, and then use the toothpick to apply the crazy glue to the handrails, and then just carefully stick it on. Always put the crazy glue on the object that you're placing on something, not the other way around. Because one mistake I see a lot of newcomers to the hobby make is like, let's say they need to put horns on a locomotive, they put a dab of glue on whatever they're working on and then stick the horns in that. Whereas if you just put a little bit of glue on the object and then stick that on, it's less likely to make a mess. And yeah, the toothpicks can definitely help in terms of being an applicator. All right, I think we're all coupled up. Let's see this. If this will work. I think I'll swap this one out because it's been running for a while, and frankly, it's kind of noisy. Have you ever considered buying something from the UK new in the box? It's not out of the the question. I've been very tempted to buy Rapido's APT sets, but they cost a fair bit of money. And then, because they're not sold in Canada directly, I'd also have to import them, which adds another cost. So it could happen one day, but most of the time I'm buying used stuff regardless of what country it's coming from. So I don't know. The problem with lifelike locomotives is that they're backwards polarity. You can't run them with other locomotives from other companies. I don't know if that's entirely true. Even if it is, you can swap the polarity around. But let's test it out because I have my fair share of locomotives from lifelike. I mean, truth be told, you shouldn't really be running different brands, even if they are the same polarity. But I'm pretty sure they're wired correctly. Oh, they're still powering the track. Yeah, so I mean, well, that one just shut off because again the wheels have that oxidizing issue. But yeah, this one, which I haven't messed with, seems to run on the same polarity. But even if your engine doesn't run on the same polarity, I think on most lifelike engines you can, uh, well, this one you can't rotate the truck around. You'd have to pull this off, flip it, and then place it back on. But also on the inside of the locomotive, if ever you want to change the natural polarity, all you need to do is move these two brushes around and the engine will run the other way or swap the wires. You have a Shea locomotive. I have a Shea engine that somebody sent in a long time ago um, as a project for me. Unfortunately, I still haven't repaired it, so it might need some specific parts. How many scales do you have? I've got Z scale, N scale, TT scale now, HO scale, S scale, O scale, and G scale. I think I got them all. I have a Rapido APT. They're really good models, but you're right with the price. Secure Scale is another maker I really like. I don't think I've worked with any Acura Scale myself. I'd be curious to try some of their products. What's the rarest locomotive? I think the rarest engine I have is my grandmother's Hiawatha. That or the Yellowstone, because I found out the Yellowstones are by Varney are incredibly not reliable, incredibly rare. I actually saw one on eBay and it was going for 600 American dollars. Hey Jack, I'm with you on loving lifelike locomotives. I have a soft spot for them, but the lifelike powerlock track I could live without. When I did a review on that lifelike train set, the lifelike power track in that box actually worked pretty well, but there have been some other sets from Walters I've got which have the same power lock track and it was absolute garbage. And my theory is that when the molds were brand new, the track clicked together a lot better, and as it ages, the molds have started to turn out a worse product, and that's why some sets have better track than others. Because it's funny how they're not consistent. Can you run a Hudson? I'm not sure if it would run on the inside circuit, but let's try it out. My only real concern is that switch. I feel like it might hop off. What should I do if my old power torque goes 0.5 miles an hour on full power? I would work on it. And could mean that it's like jammed up. Like there could be hair or dust in the gearbox. It could be gummed up with old grease or something. Like if you're giving it full power and it's barely moving, you either have a problem with your motor, your gearbox, or there's a short circuit and only a little bit of the power is actually getting to the motor. So yeah, don't keep running it until you fix that, because if you do, something bad's gonna happen. You're gonna burn out the motor or your controller. All right, let's see if this sassy girl has what it takes. What's the best way to service the MU2 drives? I usually take a drill, remove both of the rivets, and then buy some replacement nuts and screws, or nuts and bolts, I should say, at the hardware store. You can usually find some really small ones, which are just the right size after you drill out the rivets. Then you take a toothpick, clean out the commutator, clean out any old grease or oil, throw some fresh grease and oil in the gearboxes, and then use the new nuts and bolts to seal the whole thing together. The good news with the MU2s is generally they're so reliable that you don't need to work on them that much. I've seen some MU2 drives which were not treated well, and they're still dishing it out. How tight a turn can a trolley take with four wheels? I'm going to try to build a layout with a trolley line soon. Well, with four wheels, you can probably do something ridiculous like 10 radius. But it depends. It's also how deep the flanges are and stuff. I've seen some layouts that are like a foot wide, and the four wheel engines can run on them, but it still is kind of iffy. Why don't I hear any ambient room noise? I don't know, to be honest. That was going on in the last live stream, and I don't know if it's a setting I can adjust, but so far I haven't been able to get to the bottom of that. Let me try. I think that's mute. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just some new noise cancellation. What's the radius of the inside track? Uh, the inside track, I don't know, to be honest. I would guess it's probably about 13 radius. Please don't try this. I once tried to run three DC locomotives at once, and my two locomotives started burning from the inside. I don't have any locos anymore. Well, that's why it's always a good idea if you're gonna like double head locomotives to try to find two engines that are of the same make, and make sure that they run at a relatively similar speed. So place them on the track a few feet apart, and give them power, and see if they, get closer or further away from each other. Because, yeah, if you have one engine that goes really fast and another that goes really slow, like if I tried to combine, let's say, this Blue Goose with this Hudson, because of the gearing, the Blue Goose would be giving it its all, and this thing would actually be doing less work because the Blue Goose would be pulling it because it's a faster engine, and the Blue Goose would probably fry. and then that's that. I finally got the Christine 58 Plymouth Fury on Forza Horizon. Badass car. I just watched Christine Saturday night. Yeah, well, if any of you out there haven't seen Christine, it is a great movie, but it is terrifying. Every time I see one of those cars, I get that kind of eerie feeling after seeing the movie. Have you ever been to the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Museum? I can't say I have. I have been to the Railroad Museum of Greater Cincinnati, but that's probably the closest I've ever been. When are you gonna get the Wakefield train running again? I'm not sure. I need to buy it a new decoder. My favorite all-time movie is Back to the Future. By the way, do you have the Back to the Future steam locomotive? I don't have the exact one, but I do have a Sierra locomotive, which is the same type. Do you watch Heist? Not incredibly often, but I like his videos. Very knowledgeable guy on actual trains. Check out the California State Railroad Museum. It's worth it. Well, that's good to know. I think I almost went there when I was in LA years ago. Is this your first house outside your parents? Yeah, it is. First time. Well, it's not my first time living away from home because there was one summer I was working on a farm and I was basically living with my friends. So I've kind of experienced living away from home, but this is kind of like the first real stint of it. When will your next mail video be? Probably quite soon. I have a couple boxes I want to open up. Have you ever heard of Arcade Acadia? They have the only steam locomotives in New York for excursions. That name rings a bell. I'm not sure. I have the last two coaches painted into black. The first ones are almost done being painted silver already with gold and blue stripes. The Appalachian Limited. You wanted to see at some point. Did you buy the house for you or your trains? Fundamentally for myself, but yeah, also for the trains. I mean, it's lucky that I just managed to find a place that had a good sized basement. I imported an HO scale Kato H5 Shikansen for a friend and test ran it for him. I fell in love with how well it ran, and I'm looking on buying a full 10 car set for about 500 euros with fees. Yeah, that's a tough one. Is there a window behind the random gray cover? Yes, there is. I just put some R5 styrofoam up there because this house is not very well insulated, and that window, being from the 70s, is only single pane glass. So I decided just to cover all the windows down here with some foam and try to keep some of the heat inside, and it helps a bit. One thing that I'm really looking forward to is for it to be summertime and I don't have to heat the house because I imagine working down here in the summer is going to be pretty cool, both literally and figuratively. Have you heard of the new Hope Valley Railway Museum in Bonsall, NC? They have two steam engines and they operate GE tonner switchers. I can't say I have, but thanks for mentioning it. And we've got another super chat from UP1555. What's your favorite diesel? Also, what's your favorite steam locomotive? And the update on the N scale layout. Okay, favorite diesel. A BNSF-9 with an H2 paint scheme. Favorite steam locomotive has to be the original Hiawatha. And the N scale layout, nothing's really changed with that. I still need to figure out a way to kind of attach it to the bottom of this layout, but I want to get working on that. What's your favorite Star Wars movie? The first one. When I go to Japan, I ride on the JR Shinkansen, otherwise known as the bullet trains. I was on one that was doing 308 miles an hour. Trains do not slow down at the station by stopping, they just blur by. Can you tell me how to get a Rivarossi 210-2 running that I got a few days ago? Well, I can't really say without looking at it because it could be any number of problems. But a few good rules for Rivarossis are first of all, check the drawbar because that thing has to be spring loaded and make sure there's tension on that for it to actually couple up if it uses that system. Uh, if the engine, if it like if you're giving it power and you can hear the motor humming, you probably don't have a short circuit. But if you don't hear anything, you might have a short. Check the wheels, make sure they're all in alignment. If you do hear humming from the motor, you know the motor is getting power, but if the engine's not moving, it's seized, and that could be either due to grease in the gearbox or the wheels might be unquartered, which is also a common problem when these engines drop bolts. So there are some things you can kind of throw at it and see if it makes any difference, but feel free to email me. SMT, please mention Eli. They're dealing with cancer and they want to be noticed. Well, I don't see any comments from somebody with the name Eli, but I'm very sorry to hear about that. That's horrible. I've had that with some family members myself, and that's very difficult. So I'm very sorry to hear about that, and best wishes go out to you. I have a Bachmann Spectrum Burlington Northern. It has issues. Well, a lot of those are kind of known for having problems. The Selkirk looks great. I kinda wish there was a caboose trailing. You could probably find one for it. I still haven't fixed that engine, though. Walthers is doing a America 250 locomotive for release. From themselves or from a specific railroad? Is there any way to send you my Durango and Silverton HO locomotive for fix? It's really broken. I live in New Mexico. I don't do any repairs that involve shipment, but if you want to send me an email, I'm more than happy to give you advice on how to repair that. Hey, SMT, good to be back on one of your live streams. How's your new place? I hope you're settling in just fine. If it's no trouble, could you run that newish 440 of yours? Yeah, I don't see why not. I'll take the Amtrak set off the main line and try to get that going. I realize Canadian Pacific Kansas City has two America 250 units. Those are 776 and 7626. I love the new layout. I haven't been on one of your live streams for it. Oh, well, welcome. This thing is so quiet. I thought maybe it had stalled somewhere behind the mountain range, but nope. It's going along steadily. When are you gonna make a new N scale layout? I don't have a specific timeline for it, but it's probably not gonna be in the super distant future. I just want to get a little further along on the HO layout. What are your opinions on ESU lock sound? I don't own a crazy amount of stuff with lock sound, but I like it. It's got a good reputation in the community, that's for sure. What's your opinion on the Overland Limited from Bachman? I don't know. I would be a little bit skeptical buying one because it's just such a big train set that I feel like you could have derailing problems with it. And those Bachman steam engines are just very finicky in my experience in terms of derailing. Other than that, I feel like it would be okay, but I don't know. Unless you really are interested in a set like that, I'd probably look for something else. When are you gonna make the yard you wanted? Pretty soon. Luckily, I was able to buy a lot of great parts at Larkspur for it, which I was looking for. Able to save some money and help out a local business. Gotta love it when it works out like that. The freight train needs a caboose. I thought it was the Selkirk. Oh, okay. Yeah, they do look kind of similar. Consider downsizing and making that area into a playroom. Going to do a shelf layer or no layout at all. A bundle of joy when it's on the way. The world is over, dude. I don't understand. Third Deutsch professor, early morning greetings from Germany. Welcome. I found your channel over the winter. I have a layout and am in several $100s. Thanks for the inspiration. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Great hobby to be part of. I recently found out that coins make great weights for model railways. One of my trains kept derailing on slightly bumpy track. I fitted it with about 50 cents worth of coins, and it's more stable now. Well, especially if you're one of those people that has a bunch of jars of pennies around, I could see that working pretty well. It's a great hobby when the wife doesn't know about the costs. Well, luckily at the moment, the house is on me, so that's kind of my problem, but yeah, I could see it. One of my AHM switchers, when it's rolling, runs good, but sparks at the wheels. Then a different AHM switcher, the light comes on, but there's no movement. Any ideas? I'm at a loss. If the first one is maintaining a healthy RPM and it's just sparking a little bit at low speed, that might just be because the wheels are dirty or they could be steel wheels. That's normal as long as it's maintaining a good RPM. If it's going slow, it could be a sign of a short circuit, but it doesn't sound like that to me. As for the one that has a light that's coming on but no movement, AHM engines are notorious for having this problem where the brushes get stuck inside the motor. So you know the engine's picking up power because the light is working. So either the wire's going to the motor, or as I said, the brushes are where the problem is at. Could be a burnt out motor, but that's not very common. So that's where I would look. Athearn is expensive, but I think it will last generations. I tend to agree. I've got some older Athearn. Well, the blue box engines do run forever. I can say that because I have some that are 50 years old and still dishing it out. As for their newer stuff, I think it's going to be a similar story. I don't know if over time the electronics in them are going to start to go bad like 30 years up the road, but even then, you just rip it out, hot wire it, and it'll, I'm sure, just run like any other blue box would. Uh oh. Yeah, engine derailed itself. That's cool. You probably don't remember, but I asked about a Rivarossi Challenger. I decided to ask again. Well, I own one, but it's not in operating condition, so I can't run it on this live stream. Have you ever found or tested any vintage play art locomotives? I saw this one lot at a flea market, but I didn't buy it because it was quite pricey and in rough condition. Yeah, I've worked with my fair share of play art locomotives. Not high quality machines by any means. They can be relatively reliable. But yeah, I'm glad to hear you didn't buy that lot because they're probably some of the cheapest out there. Like I probably wouldn't pay more than like $15 for a play art engine. What's the next part for the layout? I'm thinking it's going to be the yard expansion. I was just buying parts for that, so I think that will be pretty soon. You think you could give the TGV Atlantic a run? If not, maybe the Shikansen. Well, I can definitely run the Shikansen because I have that here. I do have some of the Atlantic set, but I don't know if I brought the cars over yet or not. So we'll have a look. But yeah, I don't think I have the cars for the TGV Atlantic. So we'll just run this whole thing. So one thing about the layout expansion is that whenever trains disappear behind the mountain for an extended period, I always become suspicious that they've derailed. Paid $400 for a Kato N scale UP44 with DCC and sound. Oh, hopefully, it will serve you well for many years to come. I have a problem with my Erie steam locomotive by Mahano. It glitches at specific switches. Got any tips on how to fix it? Well, if you mean it's derailing, obviously clear out the frog and stuff like that. If you're just talking about it shorting out though, Sometimes on certain switches, the wheels on an engine, for whatever reason, will make contact. Like if you have a switch like I do here, the wheel will short against that. So just put a little bit of crazy glue over it, tiny, tiny bit. Let it dry for hours so you're not running your trains through glue. And 9 times out of 10, just applying a tiny bit of glue to this one spot will fix those problems. Anyway, we'll try to get that chicancing going here. We gotta let old Smokey go by first. It just slows down a bit over the switch. If that's the case, I really wouldn't worry about it. These things are always a bit of a trick to get on the track. Ah, these are spring loaded, so if you have to kind of load them up just right, but then trying to get the wheels on, they jump back out. Okay, I got that one. Maybe if I try to go the other way around, this will work better. Although I don't think you're supposed to couple it that way. Infuriating. Yeah, it is. This is the times when it does get difficult not to swear on the live streams. Okay, I got it. Hello from PEI. The package never came back. If you're the guy who sent in those coasters, good news, they did arrive. I just haven't unboxed them. Colby's Project Bin, welcome. Hi Harrison, checking in while doing some homework. Nice. All right. Uh oh. Are we back? Is this working? Can you guys all see what's going on? I don't know how much of that picked up before the internet went out, but we actually just had a really brief power outage. The lights just went dark, and then I heard a huge bang outside. So I think a nearby transformer popped. No idea why. There's not a thunderstorm or anything like that going on. So that was a bit strange. I think the Shikansen must just be drawing so many amps that it pops some fuses. You're back, brother. Okay, cool. Anyway, back to thing to. Oh, there we go. Not sure how this thing is going to perform. This is the first time it's been run on this new part of the layout. The trains took out the whole neighborhood. Is that a thing in Get Smart where he has a button that shuts down half the city? I'm not sure if you answered my question or not since the stream ended. Well, I'll just apply it again. It might not have gone through. Well, she seems to be running pretty well. Happy to see that. Can you run the Hershey train? Yeah, I'm sure we can put one of those on the track. What happened to the new 210-4? It just doesn't pick up power. I think there must be a broken wire in it or something. I'm the guy. Glad you got the coasters. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna do a post about that soon. What are the sharpest curves on the two main lines? I think the absolute sharpest is 21 radius. Most of it's 22, if not 24 or higher. You think that Amtrak will make an America 250 Acela? I want there to be a heritage unit Acela. I'm not sure. I feel like if they were going to do that, it probably would have already happened. What's the locomotive you spent the most time fixing? It's hard to say. The one that comes to mind is the RS3 Canadian National unit I worked on a few years ago. That thing was pretty bad. did spend quite a bit of time also working on my grandmother's 442. Try to get a rail-side shot of the Shikansen flying by. The set is ridiculously fast, by the way. This is being run at 50% power. A 442 Oldsmobile. I wish that'd be fun to work on. One of my favorite tricks for filming trains is putting my camera upside down. I've done that a couple times too, so you can get the lens a little bit closer. I'm hoping to visit Japan next year. Do DC trains work with any voltage issues running in North America? Sorry about that. Bit of a derailment for some reason. Not really. I've gotten a lot of comments over the years, like whenever I've bought British stuff saying, "Oh, you can't run British equipment on your layout because in England they use 240 volts and in North America they only use 120, so the voltage isn't the same." But the thing is, the voltages are very standard across the board, whether your train is from Japan or America or England or Germany. And the reason for that is because even if you have 240 volts or 120 volts in your wall, the transformer steps that voltage down. So if you have a North American transformer, it puts out between 12 and 18 volts. And if you have a British transformer, even though it's 240 volts going into it, it's still only 12 to 18 volts coming out of it. So you don't have to worry about that. There are a few exceptions where you have some 6-volt sets, but those are very rare. And truth be told, even if you have a 6-volt set, it can probably handle 12 volts. Do you have any Montana Rail Link? What regional passenger roads do you have? Not sure about regional passenger roads, but I do have one Montana Rail Link engine. I'll put it on here if I can find it. Okay, I see it. Only concern you should have is that power supplies in Japan have an input of 120/230. Half of Japan is 120. I didn't know that about Japan. That's interesting. James is saying 6040 rosin core. Somebody asking for solder recommendations? I'm new. Do I need to be cautious as to how many volts I put in my locomotives? Unless it's one of the new Lionel ones, I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, it doesn't mean go hook up a, you know, 60-volt transformer to your train set. That's a terrible idea, but any train set controller only operates between, like 0 to 18 volts on the high side, so you don't have to worry about that. Truth be told, too, I mean, for a DCC engine, it might be a bad idea to hook it up to a powerful DC controller and give it a ton of voltage. Maybe that would do some damage to like the decoder, but in terms of DC locomotives, I find what will destroy a motor faster than anything is it being strained. Like if you're hauling too many cars, or if the gearboxes are not lubricated properly, or if the engine's jammed up and the motor's getting a lot of power, but it's not doing a high enough RPM, it will overheat and you'll cook your coils. But I've been running some locomotives way over voltage for years. Hasn't hurt a thing. I mean, motors like to rev and they cool a lot better when they're at a high RPM. Now there is a limit to that. Obviously, if you take a 12-volt engine and you run it on 24 volts, yeah, you're probably going to hurt the commutator because it's going to start to arc at a certain RPM. But generally, I find these things will react well to speed. It's just being strained that really destroys them. Just took some wires to an overhead third rail at your nearest line, and then you're, oh man. I saw a video once online where somebody had thrown a old bicycle uh, beside some subway tracks, and it ends up getting caught between the front of the locomotive and the third rail, and then this eventually the bike gets pushed up far enough where it actually makes contact with the electrical components, and then the whole thing just pops, and pretty much just the bike mostly vanishes. Did you get a coaster train or the thing that goes under the cups on the tables? If the coaster no, it's like, table coasters. The thing you put on your mahogany desk has to not damage it. Not that I have a mahogany desk. Yeah. Harrison, I'm gonna build a library cart for trains, cassettes, and to store trains. Seems like a great idea. Just haul it around with you around the layout. What's a good first HO steam engine to get? Something I would say probably mediumly sized, like a Mahano consolidation, or I don't know. Most of the old Mahano IHC stuff is pretty ideal for beginners. It doesn't derail easily. It's reliable, and you can find them pretty cheap. They don't make them anymore, unfortunately, but you can still find a lot of them in pretty good shape. How's Nerf Cat? Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He's Nerf kitty in the sky now, but he lived a good life. That was all the way back in October now. Are Bachmann N scale engines as bad as their HO scale models? My impression is that they're slightly better. I know some people in the N-scale community that absolutely despise them, but overall, I hear most of the bad stuff about Bachmann in terms of their HO range, not as much for their N-scale stuff. So I don't know if they have slightly better standards for their N-scale equipment, but I'm under the impression they're a little bit better for N-scale. And UP 1055 says they are so bad. The stray cat that adopted us went to the vet and got fixed and lives in the house now. Well, to be honest, that's part of the reason I haven't like adopted any pets, especially cats. I don't like. I feel like most people when they get a dog, they go out and they find a dog. Whether it is adopted or they have a puppy bred or something like that. Um, it's like a planned thing. Versus if I find cats, they just kind of turn up in your life, the cat distribution system, as people call it. So I don't know. I feel like one's gonna somehow show up one day. What about Nerf Cat's no longer around? He passed away in 2025. Is Bachman or Walther's better? In my opinion, Walther's is better. They cost a little bit more, but I personally find they're engineered a little bit better and have higher quality parts, at least in terms of their diesels. You have N scale. Yeah, I've got some N scale stuff. My layout isn't currently set up, but I do have a bunch of N scale engines. I went to Super Train last weekend. You would have loved it. SMT, really great layouts and various scales. It looked like a great show. I wasn't there myself, but I did see a lot of posts on Facebook about it. I have a Bachmann engine that I got from a used section. It runs like brand new. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Sometimes you just score a deal like that. That's a good question. For everybody in here, what's the best deal you've ever gotten in the hobby? I'm sure there are some stories. I'd love to hear them. How much does Mahano consolidation cost? If you can find one in like new condition for about $100, I feel like that's a good deal. If you can find one used in running condition, around $50. Do your trains ever go outside IRL? Well, I've done some videos running trains in the snow, but that's about it. The rarest HO scale train is by Rapido. Good luck finding a Rocky Mountaineer train as they're only available on board the Rocky Mountaineer. Wow. Not sure about the best, but I scored a Hobbytown switcher kit. with the matching Curry SW15 for 65 bucks. Is Atlas or Pico track better? Personally, I use both. The only thing I prefer Pico for is the switches. My best deal was $40 for a complete Bachmann big hauler set. They usually run for 200, 120 to 160, depending on their condition. I feel like I scored big time with that. I feel like a train set for $50 or less, even if it's like, a decent one or a cheaper one, is pretty good. My Electro Train AVES 102 was pretty decent deal for a full set. It took me about a year to complete. I paid 550 with DCC and sound for a while. The same train, you'd be looking at $900. Yeah, that's pretty good difference. I picked up a Tyco engine from a train show for $10, and they said they didn't know if it worked. Got it home, cleaned it up, and it works. That's the best when they understate the condition. I've had that a couple times at train shows and even on eBay where somebody says, "Oh yeah, it's not in working order." You get it home and it just starts. Atlas and Pico Code 83 are not compatible. Check the web of track. They're not the same. They have to squish the rail joiners between them to get it to work. Well, I can't speak for Code 83, but for Code 100, they seem to work fine together. And James says he's using Walther's track Code 83. I agree with you. Pico switches are amazing. Atlas Flex track is easy to work with and looks great. Yeah, it's a good combination in my opinion. The cheapest train set I got was a Bachmann Santa Fe. Only paid 20 bucks for it. Big haulers are G scale. Oh, well, if it was G scale, that's a especially good deal because that stuff tends to go for an arm and a leg. Marvin Stretch says Bachmann locomotives can't haul freight cars like two lake flake locomotives pairs can haul. Well, if you're comparing two engines, that doesn't really seem like a fair comparison for Bachmann. Um, I don't know. I mean, maybe some of the proto engines can outpull a Bachmann. I haven't had too many pulling capacity issues with my Bachmann steam engines. It's more about like derailing issues. And UP 1055, thank you for the super chat. I got a Scale Trains Union Pacific SD40 with DCC and sound for 250. Not bad, not bad. SMT, do I have to use cork roadbed? I would either use cork roadbed or nothing at all. And the reason I say that is because foam roadbed, in my experience, is nothing but trouble. I know a few people in the hobby that seem to like it, but I was using it on my layout, and I despise the stuff. The amount of different problems it caused with my track was not worth it. So I would either, if you have to, just put your track directly down on the plywood, or get some cork road bed, or if you can't find cork road bed, get some cork floor underlay and use that. What's your rarest locomotive? I think mine is an MBTA F40-3C with DCC. I got an HO scale Spectrum. I sell it for free at a train show. It almost runs perfect. Little bad start. Well, I think the rarest engine I have would be the Yellowstone, which I paid $20 for. That was only for the shell, though. If some of you have watched the channel for a while, you'd know that I had to basically build the rest of that from scratch. But as I found out, it's a very rare piece. Hmm. The Rapido engine isn't starting. Maybe I just need to try to run it on DCC. There we go. Another rare one you have is the Canadiana Sharknose. That's difficult to find. A lot of people have said that, and I that hasn't been my experience. I've probably seen about 3 or 4 of them for sale at local yard sales, or even a few on eBay. So I don't know if people in the Ottawa area were just buying a ton of them back in the day, but um, yeah, I have found some. Go to Home Hardware. They sell sheets of cork. What's the weirdest engine you have that runs? I don't know. I mean, I've got the custom F unit. This one's kind of whack. Scratch building is like a model railroader's rite of passage in model railroading, like a Jedi building their first lightsaber, or a monk making their first pilgrimage. It's as fun as it is meaningful. I mean, even if you're building something that's not that good, something that not everybody out there likes, it is kind of cool building something that is one of a kind and putting your mark on it. Like there are some engines, like when I want a model of something like in real life, then I will sometimes buy a brand new locomotive. But like part of the reason I really like buying used engines and then fixing them up is because I don't know, it's almost like you're putting your own kind of spin on it. It's like you took something that's worthless and you made it better. Because there have been several times where I've bought a project engine and I don't know, I didn't really care for it too much when I started working on it. And then by the end of the repair, I'm like, okay, this is staying in the collection. I like this thing. You need to paint an O1 and a General Lee flag on the Amtrak and jump the ramp again. Include the General Lee horn this time. I don't know. I think I've done enough with the jumping trains. I'm honestly surprised that that worked. Is the F unit the most common HO engine to find? I feel like that's fair to say. I mean, almost every starter set back in the day came with one, and there are a lot of modern manufacturers that still make them. So yeah, they're pretty common. I feel like almost every brand out there has some sort of a rendition of the F unit. I'm trying to think of a brand out there that never made any F units. Maybe Rivarossi. SMT, do you have an A Team or GI Joe or Transformer set? I have part of the Transformer set, just the locomotive. I don't have the GI Joe or A Team set. I would really like to get the A Team set or at least the locomotive, but I haven't found one at a good price, so I'm just kind of waiting around. Somebody actually listed one on Facebook Marketplace pretty recently in a lot, and I'm kind of tempted, but I don't know. Hey, SMT, it seems like you always live stream whenever I finish something major on the railway. This time it was static grass. Love the content. Keep it up. Thank you. If my tracks have plastic ballast under them, will they sag or bend even if it's not on an even surface? Not as much. Roadbed track obviously is a lot more rigid because it has the that support under it, but you have to be careful because like if the spots where it connects are not well supported, it will bend the rail joiners and stuff. But like if you have a piece of roadbed track and there's a gap between the two joiners, it's not going to hurt anything. I went to a train show and realized the deals were crazy because I spent almost $200 on rolling stock and started in September. Does add up. You screw down your tracks. Sometimes I use nails, but I've also used screws. I find for roadbed, it kind of works better because the nails that you can buy at hobby shops are pretty short. So if you have roadbed, they don't reach very well. But the thing I like about screws is that you can actually tighten them, and so you can kind of get the track to the perfect level. If for whatever reason it's like lifting in a certain spot, and they don't vibrate out of place, which is nice. See if I can find the box. I have a certain type of screw I like. Buy these boxes of miscellaneous screws on Amazon. They're not too expensive, and the thing I like about these is that will go way through the roadbed and actually, down into the wood. You do have to drill out your ties a little bit for these to fit, but they're not bad. And then you just put a little bit of paint over the top, and no one will ever even know it's there. Have you ever had a time where you've crashed a train into water? I I can't think of that ever happening. I did run some trains out in the snow, but I dusted all the snow off after, so I don't really feel like that is quite the same as an engine being submerged. I have dealt with some engines that were flooded by the previous owner, and those were kind of tricky to fix, but that's about it. When did you buy your first model train? It was in sometime around June of 2007. Yeah, it was sometime around June 2007 because I had got my very first layout in April of 2007, and then I'd saved up enough allowance by early that summer that me and the family went on a trip to Larkspur, and I was able to buy my first engine, which was an old Athearn. Did you get the rest of your layout from your parents' house? I still haven't moved the Hershey factory over yet. I'm not sure what I want to do with the Hershey factory because it's kind of inevitable that I'm gonna have to move it. But something came up which I'll have to share in a second. Allowance at what age? Well, if it was 2007, I was 6 years old. So yeah, I was 6 years old. But I would do chores around the house and mow the lawn and stuff. And well, not mow the lawn at that age, but I was probably raking and stuff. I was doing yard work and so on, and then I would get $2 a week, and then after a certain amount of weeks, I had saved up enough. Yeah, on the Hershey factory, one of the guys who actually worked at Hershey's reached out to me, and he was asking, I guess they're going to do some sort of a reunion with all the people who used to work at the Smith Falls Hershey factory, and he was asking me if he could get me to bring the model up, and he would pay for the cost of the van and everything like that. So I don't know if that's going to work, but it'd be pretty cool to bring the model up to Smith Falls and actually get an opportunity to talk to a lot of the people who once worked there. I noticed the Hershey factory is missing. Well, it's going to be a tricky one to move. There's no doubt about that. Did you build the buildings by yourself, or is it a mix of both? A lot of them were built out of kits, so they weren't like scratch built or anything like that. But I did assemble them. I found a full DCC Bachmann set in my childhood toys box last year. The weird part is I was only into model trains, and I'm 21 now. Well, if it's DCC, it must be relatively modern. If you move the factory to the meet, it will be no small gesture, but sweet nonetheless. Well, they offered to pay me, and I mean, if they want to pay for the expenses of moving it, I'm fine with that. But I don't know, just the opportunity to actually meet with people who used to work there would be quite a honor. So honestly, I wouldn't be too have a problem doing some volunteering there. You help keep me inspired to work on my layout. Right now, it's running around to the top of the room. The lower section benches are built. I hope to get the track down on two scales going soon. What scales are those? What are your thoughts on the Walther's couplers? Mine break so often, and they're the new ones. I like the Walther's metal couplers. I can't speak for the new ones because I'm pretty sure those might be Bachmann's secretly, which are rebadged as Walthers. If they are, I don't like them. If there's some other plastic kind, even if they are made by Walthers, I probably don't like them either. Any plastic couplers, frankly, I'm not a big fan of. I would way rather work with this style of plastic coupler than I would this style of plastic coupler. And I know that seems kind of contrarian because, these are kind of junk. So a lot of people will tell you, but at least these, because they're so thick, even though they're made out of plastic, are somewhat durable. These plastic couplers you have to baby. If you bump them or anything, they break. Whereas the metal couplers from Katie, in my opinion, they pay themselves off because they're so much harder to break that you don't have to really ever replace them. It's pretty rare I replace Katie's. I actually did a stress test once to see, just how much more strain metal couplers could take compared to plastic. And so what I did was I took two MNRA coupler height gauges. I put a plastic coupler in each one, and then I just pried, and the plastic couplers would bounce out or they would just snap. Like I would just grab on like a couple pliers and just pull, and they would break. The metal couplers were so strong, I was pulling with both hands like this, and it took a lot of effort to break them. So they're definitely much more durable. Are Atherns stronger than Bachmans? I would say most of them have better pulling capacity. SMT, do you think that AI will somehow make its way into HO trains for whatever reasons? Well, it seems to be the thing that no matter what the industry is, every company wants to add AI to something. So I'm sure it will. I don't know if that's going to be in terms of designing buildings or artwork for backgrounds of layouts, or who the heck knows what they're going to come up with. But frankly, I kind of hope that it doesn't, because so far I haven't really seen the benefits of AI. I don't find it's kind of appeared in my life in any way, and in a way that like I like. Just got all these like garbage videos and stuff that people are making. So um I don't know. Hopefully most companies will avoid it. Something I kind of like about model railroading is that it is kind of outside the internet and stuff. Stuff actually gets built. I don't know. SMT, have you heard of the Fillmore and Western Railway? Also, I returned from my band concert. I don't think I have heard of that one before. Can you run your realistic Canadian Pacific? The SD90? Think it's over on this shelf. Yeah, there it is. I have the same Amazon Studio lights. They last forever. They're pretty good. I've had those since like 2020, and I haven't had any problems with them. I'm not sponsored or anything, but I will say that not just for making videos, but for working on certain parts of the layout, or even sometimes I haul these out to the garage when I'm working on a car or something, just get a little bit more illumination. No AI, I want the real deal on the layout. Amen to that. I think I'm either gonna have to do a factory reset on the decoder or on my controller, because this is not good. Oh, Sparky, welcome. I did a lighting video that might help you. Uh, Not too expensive, just plug and play. Okay. I don't know what's going on with this thing. Okay. I mean, I'm all for running stuff at realistic speeds, but I think that that's a bit ridiculous. Right now, I'm working on a 22 oval with an 18-inch helix in the middle, trying to pass over the outer track. Well, that should be doable. I would imagine it would only take, like, I don't know, maybe 3 loops to accomplish that. I finally caught a live stream. It's been a while. Watching from Texas. Any Rio Grande locomotives if you have one? Let me have a look. I don't think. Yeah, I don't have any America 250 engines yet. I don't even know how many manufacturers have those engines in stores yet. Okay, Rio Grande, Rio Grande, Rio Grande. I might not have any at the house here at the moment. Although, wait a minute. Yeah, there we go. One of these runs well, the other not so much. I'll see if I can find the one that runs half decent. It's probably this one. I like what you done with the place. Thank you. Well, it's not exactly running enthusiastically out of the gate, but let's let it warm up here. Huh, it's running pretty well. How much work do you have left on your layout? There's quite a bit ahead. I've got to build the yard, got to connect the previous layout into this one. And then after that, I think I'm going to try to build the double bridge and run a track throughout the rest of the basement. If I add a DPU that's faster than the leading train, can that burn out the train if it's at full speed? Well, hold on a minute. If you have two engines and one is just slightly faster, like if you run them separately from each other and there's just a little bit of a gap, It's not a very big deal. It's only really when you have like one engine that's running slow and the other's like that. That's where you're gonna have problems. So if it's only a slight difference, I wouldn't be too concerned. Put the faster one on the front. I'm enjoying this premiere. Well, it's not a premiere, but thank you. You run the Shikansen. I already ran the Shikansen earlier, so I think we'll run something else like this. Yeah, it's a little bit of a push for that engine, but it seems to be doing it. Building a layout will never end. You'll always find something new. I tend to agree with that, although, there is kind of like a more finished state and a less finished state. When I was 21, I was getting ready for my second deployment. No worries, it was okay. Can you run a British diesel, please? I think we can make that happen. Look at that timing. That's some pen tracks type stuff there. Ever think about getting the Aero train? I've been looking for one, but I don't find that people are usually willing to sell them very cheap. So if I find one at a good price, I'll definitely get it. But I don't want to pay eBay prices for one. Have you ever thought about having a museum on the layout? It has been suggested. It would be a good way to kind of store some older engines and things like that, but just not sure where I would place it. If I have any extra space, I think my two goals are going to be first of all, possibly finding a place for the Hershey factory, and second of all, finding a spot to build Forest Fair Mall. Understandable on the eBay prices. Right. Coffee grinder number two doesn't seem to want to start. Thank you so much for the super chat, Frank. You have any extra trains you want to get rid of? I can take them off your hands. Well, I'll probably do a giveaway for the next time I want to send some trains to a new home. I always get lucky on eBay, but only with car parts. Yeah, I've had that happen a couple times myself. I needed to buy a voltage regulator for my Oldsmobile, and I managed to find one that was brand new old stock for $20. That was a pretty good deal. But I think the difference is maybe for car parts, there just isn't as much demand because they're so specific. Whereas even junky engines on eBay, I find people are willing to pay an arm and a leg for. I think there's more buyers for model trains on eBay than there are sellers. Train shows are better. I prefer them myself. I mean, I buy lots off eBay, but that's about it. It's pretty rare that I just buy, a really specific thing off eBay unless there's something really special about it. Uh-oh. I think the River Rossi is overheating. It sees what's going on here. Yeah, I think it must be overheating. Oh yeah, enough running that. Oof. Oh, it stinks. The current draw wasn't that high, but it does feel kind of warm around here, so yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I didn't bake the coils out of it. Lube her up. Yeah, I think it needs that. Oh, it's so bad. Usually the coils cooking on these things isn't like that, but it smells like burning garbage or something. It's probably some god awful PCB oil in the from the 70s burning in there. Facebook Marketplace is goaded for cheap trains every once in a while. I haven't had too much luck with it myself, but I have heard some good stories. There was that one time I found that lot of engines for 300 Canadian. That actually was a pretty good deal, but that's about it. Maybe some old Bakelite plastic. Hopefully not. Well, something when I was working on my grandmother's Hiawatha, a lot of people were like, "Oh, sand some parts of the shell, you can make it work better." I'm like, I don't really want to sand Bakelite. Don't sand anything on the Hiawatha. It's way too unusual to risk. Well, I mean, that was coming from River Restore, who's pretty knowledgeable on these things, but personally, I probably never will because, first of all, it's Bakelite. Second of all, yeah, I don't want to damage something. What kind of shelf do you use for your engines? They're all pretty random. This is an old bookcase. That's an IKEA Billy bookcase. And that shelf right there actually came with the house. So I just started using it. And you're on the super chief. Yeah, we can do that. Just gonna let the other side of the basement air out all the terrible smoke. Do you have any cool track work ideas for the layout upgrades? I see a flying junction somewhere. One thing I was considering is um potentially, because again, there's going to be a bridge right here. I could actually build a track going across here and then have a track lining up for the yard there. If I do that, I would probably have to wire up some electric switches just to make it practical to use. Another idea is actually building a track which will line up with this bridge and then building a mountain to hide it just so it doesn't look as weird with that other one. That's about it for the moment. The Rio Grande is giving the smoke detector its first test. I don't think it's enough for that, but I do know the smoke detector works because when I was sanding with the angle grinder, I think it was burning the wood and creating a bit of smoke. There wasn't flame or anything like that, but while I was sanding down here, the smoke detector did go off. And it caught me off guard because I had ear protection on and I just hear this beeping and I was like, oh, whoops. Yeah, ever since I bought the place, I got a couple new smoke detectors and a new fire extinguisher. Hopefully, never gonna need that, but better to have it than realize you need it when you don't. Are you ever gonna do any home repair videos? I don't think I ever will. I love making videos of building the layout and working on trains and stuff because I find that stuff fun. Fixing up this house is a satisfying thing where I don't necessarily like doing it, but I like the results of it. But what I will say is that for working on engines or my layout, filming the videos slows that process down, Probably, like, I'm probably going 3 times slower making a video about doing something rather than just working on it, and that's fine because I enjoy making the videos, but if I were to do that for my house, I would be doing a job I don't like, and then it would be slowed down 3 times from the video production, so I'd yeah, I don't think I ever will. My brother just joined, his channel is SP Steam, can you see him? I don't think I can, but sometimes if 2, accounts are logged in from the same Wi-Fi network, one gets hidden, so that might be what's going on. Some smoke detectors trip for big amounts of dust. Well, maybe that's also what did it, I don't know. Either way, I know it works. I'm gonna try that wood plank over the track trick like you did. Make that layout with the loop go over the bottom tracks. Yeah, it functions. Why don't you use Kato tracks? They're expensive and they only make them in code 83. So for older pieces of equipment, which I have quite a bit of, it wouldn't work very well. If you're running modern equipment, I'm sure Kato is great, but for my purposes, I don't think it would be that good. What rail do you use? Code 100 nickel silver. You know how to fix up a burnt up 50s or 70s train? If a locomotive burns up, like the motor, the coils actually burn up. There's not any way to fix that other than rewinding the motor, which is a really uh, time consuming and skilled process. But most of the time, even if you have a motor which has some questionable looking coils, if you clean it really well, lubricate it, and then don't strain it, they will still run for a while. You still have RJ Corman number 2008. If so, can we see it? Yeah, for sure. It's right here at the moment. I still haven't fully decorated it for the American paint scheme. I did take the smoke deflectors off, and then I added the white on the side here, just to kind of hide where the smoke deflectors used to go. But I still need to add the skirts to it. Still need to put the RJ Corman logo on it, and I still need to repaint the tender. So still a lot of work, but it's part of the way there. You're gonna do scenery for the blank spot. That's good to know. I think what I'm gonna do is just add the previous ravine. And James is saying there's a small shop in Quebec that would wind small armatures for me. Huh? Never heard of that service for small motors. I had some out of towners in the shop today. They mentioned that they watch a Canadian on YouTube, and I said SMT mainline. They responded, "Yes, that's him. Excellent information on trains." Well, that's a big compliment. They were saying Something similar at the store at Larkspur Line. They said that they have people coming in sometimes talking about the channel. The only way I can see my brother's messages is to switch to live chat. I'm on live chat right now. You know a good way of adding smoke deflectors? I don't know if any manufacturers sell them. I guess you could 3D print some. It's 12 p.m. here in Melbourne. Do you still have a V-line diesel locomotive? Yeah, I sure do. I can definitely run that. Be neat if you made a live stream running trains while reinstalling the gully. That's an idea. And James is asking if I'm coming to Smith Falls on the 28th. If I'm invited, yeah, I don't see why not. Did you ever end up using that GS4 smoke box I sent from the 3D model? I haven't yet. I still haven't taken the engine that was intended for out of the box yet. But when I do, definitely will. I'm the one that asked about the burnt up train. I was running it on 12 volts and it just started smoking out of nowhere. It doesn't have a smoke unit. Well, that's concerning. Yeah, it's probably the commutator. It's usually the commutator. Stuff's just burning in there, and if you clean it up, but eh, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it is the coils. You are invited to the barbecue. I will get Chris to send you the information. Sounds good. I think at this point I'll get the super chief running as requested. I think this is the first time I've run the super chief on the new part of the layout, so this is going to be kind of new. I think it is going to have enough of a wheelbase to be able to clear that wide section. It's going to look pretty cool if it does work. Riders on the storm. Yeah, it seems to work pretty well. I'm still waiting for my call from Red Bull to become a legendary HO scale locomotive drifter. Insert 90s music. Yeah. Cue up the initial D playlist. When you planning on decorating the industrial side of the layout? Well, yeah, there's still a long way to go with that. All right, I think that's enough fooling around with this thing. I'll have to make Deja Vu 2 where I actually run this plus all the cars through that section of track. Can you run 2008 along with the coaches? I don't have the actual coaches. I just have the Canadiana coaches, but I can. I'll put the 2008 plus the RJ Corman diesel on the track, and we'll haul the Amtrak train or something. I really hope that they can succeed at bringing this locomotive back to life because I think Kentucky Heritage Corp now on paper owns the locomotive, but as far as I know, they still haven't removed it from RJ Corman's shop somewhere in Kentucky. And I saw a video of it in 2020 and it already looked pretty bad with rust and stuff like that. So I can't even imagine, almost 6 years later, what this thing must be looking like if it hasn't been looked after. So, anyway, maybe it's not a big problem, but it does not seem ideal by the looks of it. Just gonna quickly find the diesel here, and then we should be good to go. Kentucky Fried Heritage Corp. I like that. Can't remember where the RJ Corman engine is. I saw it earlier today. It can't be that far. C'est fantastique. You need some 1930s or 1940s coaches to go with the steam engines, other than just the aluminum bud cars. I have some older rolling stock. It's just that the yard only has capacity for so many trains, and I don't really like taking entire passenger trains on and off during live streams just because it starts to get very timely. I have a Lionel steam turbine locomotive. It has no motor, so I just push it with the diesel locomotives like it's a modern mainline. I think Big Boy's going through Buffalo, New York. That would probably be where I'd try to see it if I do end up going out there. Thank you so much for the super chat. Synth Soda 2. I like your username. Can you run the Intercity 125? Yeah, sure. It's good timing. I was just about to throw the freight cars back on the inside circuit, so it'll be perfect for running that. It's a little hesitant to start. Let's give it more voltage, then we'll fix it. Can you turn the sound on or you can't? Well, I don't know if the live stream is doing the sound canceling thing again. I don't really have any controls over that because I'm streaming on mobile, unless there's some new setting I'm not aware of. But if you're talking about the sound on the locomotives, I can turn that on. I just don't know if the sounds of the trains are coming through. Let me know if they are. Uh-uh. Oh, there we go. It's a little rough. There we go. If you go to C4014, I highly recommend bringing ear protection. If you have sensitive hearing, the big boy is loud. I think I'd like to hear it in all its glory, just see what it's like. I have a question. Do you have the Magic Disney Express? It's a train set made by Hawthorne Village. I don't think I have that one. I did ride on the train at Disneyland when I was out in California some 15 or so years ago, though. That was pretty cool. Don't hear anything from the trains. Okay, I kind of figured that was the case. I have no idea why that is. I did check beforehand to make sure that the app was up to date and everything, but it's probably some new feature where you touch. That just makes everything look glossy. Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I have is this microphone button, but I think all that does is mute it. So I'm guessing it's some new feature, but I really wish there was a way to disable it because it's kind of annoying that the sounds of the trains are not coming through. I also don't even know if the music that I usually would play would be something people could hear. I don't have it playing right now, but that could be a bit of a problem. Whoops. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Maybe there was a way in the background. Customization, live chat, that's all enabled. Participants, that all looks good. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the direct settings for that. My guess is that I can't change that, but I'll have to look into it more. There's always a solution. The dreadful noise cancellation. I have never liked any noise cancellation features. I find noise canceling headphones or when people put like a noise canceling filter on their videos, I find it sounds like junk. I didn't know there was an F in Rio Grande before. I don't understand. What was your first layout? Well, this right here is actually my first layout. It's been changed quite a bit over the years, but fundamentally it's the same as it's always been. I just fixed up a Tyco Rio Grande F unit. Do you plan on having any LED lights for the train room? I need to add a little bit more lighting. I already have this light fixture, which I need to wire up. But that's about it. These technically are LEDs. They're halogen imitation bulbs. They work pretty well. Are you familiar with the Iowa Traction Railway? I don't think I am. SMT, do you plan to get UP number 4014? If I found one at the right price at a train show, I would definitely snap it up, but I'm not looking for one specifically. I'm sure I could find one on eBay, but it's one of those things where I'm not really interested in paying like top dollar for one. Iowa Traction. Did Lauren Osier do a video on the Iowa Traction Railway? This is starting to ring a bell now. My layout is a Tomy play rail, but I'm looking for an HO scale big boy. I meant 844, not 4014. I might have misread that. I like the layout so far. Are you bringing back the Hershey factory? I was saying earlier that I might move the Hershey factory over there, but the actual people who used to work at the Hershey factory want me to bring it up to Smith Falls, so I'm not sure where that's all going to kind of fit together. But anyway, in short, what I don't want to do is move it down here, go through the effort of actually getting it into the basement, just to have to move it back out to bring it up to Smith Falls. So yeah, I'm not sure. Back then, my uncle had this cursed unit. I don't know what motor it was, but he gave it 100% throttle to see how fast it was. The thing fired right off the table and into the garage door. That sounds very similar to the Acela incident that happened here on the channel years ago. Some of the subscribers will remember when I gave my Acela full throttle and sent it off a corner of the layout. Can you run the Selkirk that you featured in your last video? Your repair videos is what drew me to the channel. Unfortunately, ironically, the Selkirk isn't running. I think the wire might have snapped off of it because it just wouldn't pick up power. But I'll have that thing up and running in the not so distant future. I don't think it's gonna take much to get it going again. I just have to open it up and solder that wire back on. Yeah, SMT, I recently picked up an Athearn Blue Box Dash 9. The flywheels don't seem to coast as far as my other Blue Box locomotives. Any suggestions on how to get it to coast better? Well, I think Athearn might have changed the sizes of their flywheels on some of their later models. If not, it could just be the gearboxes. Sometimes they don't rotate as well as others. So I do have some Athearn engines that coast a lot better than others. Yeah, I think the only way you're gonna fix that is probably to replace the motor, which has the two flywheels. See if that does it. When my 70s train started smoking, I tried it a few hours later and it would not get power. My transformer said no power was going to the train. Well, yeah, it could be the coils. It could also just be though that the commutator, like one of your springs melted. The more reduction in the gearbox, the less it coasts. Well, I meant more in terms of like if you have really old grease in your gearbox, it's gonna add friction, and so by reducing the friction, it's gonna coast a little bit better. But yeah, if you have a gear reduction, which is pretty rare, I know some Athearn engines have a 31 to 1 gear reduction on top of their existing reduction, but I'd be surprised if it had that. So I have a few. I'm not sure if I have any of them here, but I have some of the 31 to 1 gear reduction engines, and it's crazy. The motor's revving to like 7,000 RPM and the engine's barely moving. It's pretty funny actually. But I have a Canadian Pacific engine. It might be one of the ones that has that. Could be this one. Let's have a look see. Yeah, that one's not it. So it must be back at my parents' place, but I have this one where yeah, it's revving about 7 grand and barely moving. I don't think I have any of the other ones here. Yeah, I think that's all. I don't know who made this, but it was a kit you used to be able to buy for your Athearn Blue Box locomotives, and it was basically just a small set of gears you would add to the existing set. Genius idea for the time. Sounds like that one doesn't have a reed gear kit, but yeah, some of them do. Ernest, is that what it was? Is that a first gen Shikansen on the shelf? Yeah, if you go back earlier in the live stream, I was running that around the layout. Bloody fast model, I tell you what. I was running it at half speed, and it looked a bit questionable going through some of the turns on my layout. Ernest gear kit, I have some. What's the best to worst locomotives you have? I'm not sure about the best. I'm not sure. I don't know. Let me have a look. I brought some bins of engines over here. I might have brought the worst one because I think up until now I don't have it. This corner still smells like smoke from that River Rossi earlier. I thought I had brought it over. Chesapeake on fire. But Chesapeake on fire isn't even that bad an engine anymore. It runs pretty well. But yeah, this thing is pretty bad. My friend's cousins found a box of trains for sale at a yard sale, and they bought it for my friends in hopes that they could set up they wanted a model railway and they thought they could set it up. They got it, they messed around with it, they didn't have any luck, and they were going to put it out at the end of the road. Um, and then they were like, "Well, Harry, if you want to go through it, it seems like a box of junk, but if there's anything, of value, just dig through it." And so I went through it and found three engines, and this was at the bottom of the box. It's a 70s era lifelike, and these actually have a decent drivetrain. They're second generation, so this is right after basically Varney had gone out of business, and then Lifelike had acquired the tooling. They used kind of a cheapened version of Varney's tooling for a while before then changing it to this, which had a motor mounted here, which was a 5 pole and a four-wheel pickup. Anyway, despite how it looks, it actually does run half decent. When do you want to isolate switches when running DC? Some switches you need to electrically isolate and wire, but most switches you don't have to do that on. The only reason you might want to add isolation is if you want to add electrical blocks to your layout, but that's about it. These Pico switches, the Insel Frog switches are DCC and DC compatible. Are your parents still trying to get used to all the new space in their basement at your old home since moving? I don't think so. They've put some chairs down there and a couple bins, but that's about it. The rest of the space is still opened up. Do you like Pico switches better than Atlas and other brands? I do. The Atlas switches are not bad. They'll get the job done. They're incredibly common. But the thing I like about the Pico switches is that the frogs are a little bit wider and deeper. So if you're running older equipment, they're less likely to catch. The springs are actually built into the switch, which is a really nice feature. And if you do a little bit of soldering on these switches, basically what you want to do if you buy these things is you solder this rail to this rail and this rail to this rail, and what that does is it makes a solid connection so that you're not relying on the switch itself to flow power through it. So if you do that, these things are pretty darn solid. You miss your old house? Not really. I was talking about that earlier. Like, it's not completely out of my life. My parents still have it, so I can still go over there all the time. But generally, I'm quite happy around here. It's just nice being able to film videos whenever I want, and just kind of run things on my own time there, and not bug anybody. How do you feel about the Maynard's O-gauge locomotives? I haven't ever worked with them myself. I wish we had a Maynard's in Canada. Unfortunately, we don't. I don't know if there's any nearby in like New York I could go to, but I'd be curious to try them out. I've heard decent things about them. Where did you get the QJ? I bought this off eBay. There's some seller that seems to sell all the K First products. Do you know what 2008's nickname is? It's Old Smoky. I believe that name was coined by Rick Corman himself. Yeah, SMT, I love your videos. You inspired me to make an N-scale layout. I'm using Kato's standard track, so I was wondering if you could tell me what a good DCC starter would be. Well, if you're talking about controllers, I'd probably get like a DCS 51 or maybe something from NCE if you want to get on that team. As for locomotives, though, I don't have a preference to be honest. After opening up the Dash 9, the gearbox appears to be fairly clean with little oil in it. Doesn't have a gear reduction kit. Are the flywheels gray or gold? Because I think the gray flywheels are slightly smaller than the golden flywheels. I think Athearn changed the size, which would affect it. I'm not sure if I have any examples on hand here, but yeah, I don't have any in this bin. I was hoping I was going to have one of the gray ones and one of the gold ones in here, and I could just compare them right on camera, see if there is a difference. They are the gold flywheels. Well, then I'm stumped. I wouldn't be able to say why the engine's running differently. The only thing I can figure is maybe it has more or less hours on it than the others, and that could affect performance. But other than that, I don't know why. Clean the commutator. That's another thing, actually, because if the commutator's dirty, it will draw more amps, which would cause things to draw down a little bit quicker. I really liked your videos when you were building layouts for other people. They were instructional. Do you have any plans to do any of that in the future? I look forward to seeing some. So the short answer is yes. I definitely plan on building some more layouts for people. Right now, my hands have just been full because I've been, building up my own layout here at the new house. But I want to build a budget layout. I want to build a layout for under $100 to show people how to, get into model railroading if you don't have a crazy amount of cash on your hands. And the other one I want to do is how to build a very simple layout for beginners, actually using road bed track just to keep things nice and straightforward. Gold flywheels are the newer ones. They did decrease the size a little bit to make the hood width scale. Yeah. Is it possible for me to pay you for a very small HO scale layout? If you live in Ottawa or Gatineau, maybe. But my main concern is that even if I was building, I don't know, a 3.5 by 4, that I have no idea how I would get that to you. 'Cause I've got quite a few emails over the years after building some of the layouts saying, "Hey SMT, can you build me a layout? I'm willing to pay, for all the materials and your time and everything like that." And it's like, "Okay, where are you at?" "Oh, California." Don't exactly live next door to California. I don't know how I'd ship a layout out there. I also want to move an HO layout. What brand for track would you recommend? For track, I personally use Atlas and Pico switches, all code 100 nickel silver track. As for controller, it depends if you want DCC or not. If you want DC, I'd probably get like an MRC Tech 2. And if you want DCC, get like a Digitrax DCS 52 or something like that. Do you ever sell your trains? Not a whole lot. Sometimes for some of the lots that I buy off eBay, I sell off the excess locomotives to my local hobby shop for like $5 or $10 a piece. I pretty much just get the money. I invest in them, but that doesn't really matter because the videos that I make about repairing the trains pay for them. So I kind of break even on the resale. But the rest of the stuff I just give away at train shows. Usually when the OVA or flea market comes up, I do a giveaway, and it's just nice for people out there who have humble means being able to get some stuff. And I also, as some of you have seen on the channel, do some giveaways and just kind of pay it forward because there a lot of people out there have sent me some boxes, so I just like to try to kind of reciprocate that back into the community. You buy any Hornby trains? I have a few. They're all mostly older models, though. Hello from Uzbekistan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Can you run the Bachman from your last video? I already did, but it's pretty easy to set up, so sure. Do you have any COX trains? If so, can you run one? Yeah, I've got some of those. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, what's going on there? I think this plastic is warped and the wheels are kind of popping out of place. Oh. I wonder how long that's gonna remain derailed before it either re-rails itself or causes another derailment like that. Gosh darn it. Gotta love it for my cheap $40 train sets going and crashing into like one of the most expensive engines I personally own. That's fine. That would have been a stream highlight if that happened. What if my nice engine got destroyed? The downside of owning a bigger layout is that it takes longer to get to the other side of it. It's good exercise. I don't even have to go to the gym. I can just run trains for a couple hours and it's like probably walking a kilometer. Budget train set of destruction. Yeah, this thing is the Christine of trains. I think I asked this before, but could you make the bridges fold up so you can walk through the middle? Theoretically, it's possible. I don't think it would be a great idea in my case, to be honest. I mean, I could probably make these bridges folding. It's this one that I'm concerned about because in order to access that yard, this has to be at a turn, and having a folding layout on a turn where you're going to have two gaps in the track is really hard to get right. And if something changes, like the temperature of this room, it can change that, and then you have a derailment every time. So that's the reason I want to kind of keep this permanent. But yeah, it does make a little bit more of a trip to get around the layout if I have to go over to that side. Have you been on a train before? I've been on a few trains over the years. Been on a Via train. I've been on a few different trains at museums. A lot of people have asked me, if I've ever seen a Shay locomotive, and it's fine. I can't believe this slipped my memory, but when I was really young at the Museum of Science and Technology in Ottawa, they have a Shay. I don't know if they still run it anymore, but when I was a kid, they would take it outside, and one day my mom had taken me there. I was probably about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and they were running it outside, and we went for a short trip. I think the train only went like a couple 100 feet forwards and backwards, but I don't know. Being able to ride behind a Shay, I feel like is not an experience that's super common. Lawnmower Man, Texas. I'm invisible. Not that comment. Can we see the Dreyfus Hudson before the live stream is over? Yeah, we can run the Richard Dreyfus. I think we're gonna need a bigger boat. You gotta see me, thanks. Well, I don't know why some comments get hidden on here, but it always leads to this conspiracy that I don't know, once in a live stream decide to pick somebody's comments to ignore, and then, later when I'm going through the live replay, I see somebody saying, "Oh, thanks, SMT. I used to think you were a decent guy. Then I found out you're a jerk who ignores people." It's like, no, no idea why. I have it set to live chat. It should be unbiased, but I don't know. This is weird. Guess it doesn't like that one section of track. It's just it's scared of heights. It doesn't want to go over that bridge. How many Shay locomotives do you have? Just one. Streamers be busy, can't always be watching chat if you see trains running. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna say that there's never ever a comment that, I read every single one. There are times where I'm doing something, but I just find it funny that there are some comments in these live streams I can't see, but then when I'm like watching the live stream the next day in the replay, they all are there. It's weird. My American Flyer train fell off my table and now it keeps short circuiting. I soldered the wires, but nothing will work. It is well, if it fell off the table and has developed a short circuit problem, I would probably check to make sure that any of the wheels under it are not bent, because there's a possibility, like if the drawbar for the trucks is bent up, it could be shorting against something. I've seen things like that happen before. No matter how good you get or how great your content is, there's always someone you can't please. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. There's some people out there. I mean, I don't know. It's funny. Like they'll comment about like working on one of their engines, and you'd think I was like dismantling their great grandfather's watch and destroying it before their eyes or something. It's like they're so angry, and I'm like, it's a $15 engine. Why do you care about it? I'm like, I don't know. Have you ever heard about Gumplicates? I've never heard of that manufacturer before. SMT, have you ever fixed more than one of the locomotives from that BNSF lot you got a while back? I only ended up fixing the engines that I repaired in that video, which I think was four of them. The rest of them were not really complete, so it was just not really feasible. People get angry over anything. Well, there's a lot of people who are stressed these days, or they're going through something. So I try to keep that in mind. But there are some people though that show up and they leave comments, which I think are supposed to rile me up, and I actually find them kind of funny. Like there's this one guy that this was a while ago, but he joined a live stream and he's like, "Oh, you're running all these toys. That's pathetic. You should save up your money and buy yourself a Tesla." And yeah, he stayed on for the entire live stream rate and stuff like that. And honestly, that guy was pretty funny. I kind of like that guy. Never came back again, unfortunately. The Oldsmobile is better than a Tesla. Well, it's definitely a lot cheaper. Can you please run an Amtrak before the live stream ends? It's the only locomotive we get in Florida. Yeah, let me see what I have here. I left my transformer on to watch the live stream. If the electricity bill is high, it's your fault. Oh boy. Hello from North Carolina. Did you buy cheap trains? Well, I own a couple. The first time I rode a train was 15 hours and I was behind the locomotive. It was both super fun and exhausting, I would imagine, especially if it was a steam engine. My motto, not going to please everyone, so just have some fun. That's some good words to live by. My first Oh wait, I already read that comment. Always relaxing watching your channel, Harrison, since 2020. Well, I appreciate you staying around here for such a while. It's funny because back then there were people saying, "Oh, I joined the channel. I'm late to the party." This has been going on for a couple of years, and now some people who were here when the channel was like at 10,000 subscribers are now kind of like kind of seasoned. Oh, I think this one needs a little bit of instant Folgers. You liking the new space? More room to grow? Yeah, absolutely. Goofy says, "Hello SMT. I hope you're doing okay. Today's my birthday. I found a vintage HO stainless steel American streamlined brass passenger car at a train show at a railroad museum, and I got it for $15. Well, happy birthday and congratulations on the good deal. It must have been a nice thing for your birthday. My mom said that I can finally start an HO layout for the Christmas tree. Well, that's a big plus. I tell you what, all the things that this hobby gets flack for, being able to build a train around a tree like nobody else is definitely a skill we all have. Did you know about the Bud Metro liner? Yeah, I've seen pictures of those. Do the lights blink on the roof of the Amtrak? They don't on this model. I have a Bachmann one. I'm pretty sure the same one that I actually did a whole live stream fighting with for about 3 hours, but that one does have that. I don't know if I have it here or not, though. Yeah, I don't think I have that one here. Still trying to figure out what to do with the space on the big module. Kind of so. I mean, I'm still figuring out like how everything is going to go together, but I have a rough idea. You run a shunter on the streetcar line. I forgot to do that. I'm sorry. Let me have a look. Can't remember if this is going to actually work on the inside circuit, but we'll try it anyhow. Nope. Definitely keeping up with your progress. Thank you. This is one of the best Bachmann engines I've ever owned, and it has 6 wheels. Maybe it will perform better on this. Yeah. This thing is running, but it's a little hesitant on startup. I'm gonna crank up the voltage a bit here. Nice. I got a Shea locomotive on eBay. It was $5, and I own lots of trains, maybe over 100. Still something to fix. Have you cleaned the track since you moved? Many times. Trains need to run in order to maintain them for sure. Yeah, I agree with that. I once bought this sharp nose engine, and there wasn't a single scratch on the entire engine. I think it was one of those cases where somebody had bought it and then hadn't run it once before. I put it on the track, lights came on right away, but it wouldn't move. The motor was humming. And I opened it up and the grease had completely congealed. And I think it was because the engine had never been run before. The grease wasn't being turned over, so the outside layer of the grease solidified and it locked the entire engine up. I do really wonder though, because there are some people out there who, they collect HO skill locomotives, but they never ever run them. They just buy them, they put them on a display case for 20 years. But I really wonder if at some point, they ever decided to sell some of these models, if they would even start. I feel like a lot of them would probably be locked up from, sitting 20 years. How about running the Hershey dark chocolate locomotive with all the box cars? I don't think I have all of the box cars here, but we can definitely run the dark chocolate engine. As of course, if I can actually find it, which I thought I was storing it on this side of the shelf, but I probably moved it in some live stream and then relocated it to a new part of the shelf. It might be worth my time if I actually moved some of these layers up a bit higher just so that they were all eye level. So like that would probably help with this engine disappearance problem. Hmm. I don't think it's on this shelf either. Maybe it's. Oh yeah, it's right here. I did move it. Could you explain a little bit more in detail your comment regarding Pico switches and how to solder them together to make them perform better? Sure. Let me just get the Hershey's engine going here, and I'll show you what I always do to my switches. Check the back room. I might have a switch I've already done the bypass on, and I can actually show you what exactly I do with these things. Okay, so here's the here's your basic Pico switch. And when these things come from the factory, they rely on this for the power to flow through it. So this rail has to make contact with this rail. Because it's spring loaded, that generally works. But over time, they can fail. So what I really like to do is I solder the two rails together. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to solder the two rails in the middle together. You want to solder these two together and these two together, and there's usually a gap, like where you can just kind of trim out the plastic. And then by doing this, you have a solid connection where the power that's flowing through here is now being transferred over to this rail and will flow through there. And now this, instead of having to flow through here, is being sent through that wire right there. And it makes these a lot more reliable. Do you organize your trains at all? I haven't figured out any organization at this house. At the old place I used to have like all the F units together and so on, but it would probably be a good idea if I did something similar just so that, whenever somebody asks for something, I'm not mixing everything up. When you said 20 years of sitting, my grandfather passed away. I had some HO scale trains. I tested some that had probably sat 20 years. Did they start okay? Pico makes Unifrog, Electroflog. That's a tongue twister. They make Unifrog, Electrofrog, and Insulfrog switches each serve a different purpose. Are you still working on the Hershey factory? I haven't done any work on it. It was pretty much completed in 2023. The only things I've done on it are just moving some of the cars around or dusting it off. Ones I was allowed to take, but most did, but one didn't, and it was a U-boat. You still have the Frankenstein locomotive you made out of different parts. I don't think I do anymore. I feel like I might have needed the parts for another project, and I stole them from it for it that. New house I haven't watched in a while because I've been volunteering at my local railroad. Yeah, in October I got a place my own, and so moved out of my parents' house and brought all the layouts over here. How's the 1959 Hiawatha doing? It's well. I haven't moved it over from my parents' place, but it's still on the shelf. You need some plastic drawers with a label of what locomotives are in it. Easy organizing, plus less dust accumulation, less risk of them falling or rolling off the shelf. Yeah, I see the practicality in that. Personally, I like having them all out on the shelf just so you can actually see them all, but I definitely do experience some of the risks of them getting dusty and so on. But yeah, it's fine. Street view, yeah. Did you ever get the parts for your grandmother's train that had the bad chassis? I sure did. Both of the Rivarossi Atlantics. If you're talking about the Scotsman, I never was able to get parts for that, but probably will find something eventually. I think you might add a new cat or dog to your new house. I reckon at some point I will get a cat or a dog or maybe both, but I don't know. I was saying earlier, I feel like for cats, you don't really need to go out and look for one. They sort of just show up in your life. Hey, some tea. I just got done putting a Dash 9 back together and it seems to run a lot better. I put a dab of oil on the bearings and the motor as well as cleaning the gearbox and the commutator. Is that a Athearn one? The cat distribution system at work. Do you have any Australian engines you could run? Yep. The wheels on this still look pretty clean, but this is not running great, which is too bad because when I fixed up this engine well, a year or two ago, it was running pretty well. So I don't know what changed there, but sure it's fixable. It's a blue box BNSF. I live in Canada. Yeah, you and me both. I have a problem. My HO scale Walther's trainline locomotive is smoking a bit. It won't move anymore. Well, don't force it to run any further. Could be fixable. It could just be stuff burning inside the motor, like on the commutator. You might have to replace the motor, but the good news is that they sell replacements for those, so you're not out of luck. Have you thought about installing a roundhouse? I don't know. It's tempting from a cosmetic standpoint. It would look great to have a whole bunch of steam engines all lined up, and I guess it would be more practical than building a locomotive storage area. But I don't know. For some reason, I like the idea of the locomotive storage area more. When I was at Larkspur Line, I was talking with the guy Robert about that because they had acquired some lot which had like an old homemade turntable, and he walked up to me with it, and we were trying to get it to work, and it wouldn't. The wood was too warped; it just wouldn't function anymore. But he was like, "If ever you want something to fill up a lot of time in your life, try to build yourself a roundhouse." I see where you store your locomotives, but what do you have for rolling stock? Assuming you have more than what's there. I have a whole bunch of those plastic bins, like with drawers, and they all have like a label on them and stuff. Roughly organized by era. I got a 100-year-old O-gauge locomotive running again with a cardboard plate and miscellaneous round metal clips replacement for the third rail pickup. It still works a few months later. That's great to hear. A roundhouse, a coaling tower, and even a basic diesel maintenance shop always add a nice operational touch to a layout. Could you go into a bit more detail about your comment with the Pico switches? I'm not sure if that's a repeat comment or not, but I already showed that. A roundhouse and a turntable takes up a lot of space. Yeah, What kind of locomotive is that diesel? I think it's a CL. I think it's a CLP, CL8. I learned a little trick. I use a small piece of cardboard as my drawbar for one of my old Mantua Tychos. It works pretty well. Been doing that for 3 years. Yeah, that can work. I've also heard of people using not cardboard, but a little bit of plastic from an old Tupperware lid, stuff like that. E units are superior to F units. Well, I'm guessing that there's a reason the railroads favored regular F units, but one thing I learned about at the Greater Railway Museum of Cincinnati was that apparently the engineers really liked the E units because a lot of them had dual engine setups. So if one of the engines, let's say, had low oil pressure or something like that, they could shut it down, and the single engine was enough to limp it to the next station. So they would have to slow the train down, but it wasn't like they were less common for getting stranded. Do you still have the Santa Fe Super Chief? I sure do, as a matter of fact. I was running it earlier in the live stream and it was drifting between those two tracks around that corner. It looked pretty good. You're planning on buying another Shay locomotive? I don't have any plans to. What I really should do is fix the one that I have. Has anyone ever put out a special boxcar set showing all the provinces and territories? Lionel did. I think Lionel and yeah, I want to say Lionel and Tycho. I think they were the only two manufacturers that made Canadiana stuff. I have one of the Lionel territory car, well, province and territory cars. Like I got the Quebec one. The guy had the entire train, but he wanted $120 for the cars, which I felt was a lot of money for that, so I didn't buy it. unpopular opinion, but GMD is better than EMD. I wouldn't I wouldn't be able to speak on that. The only thing I know is that EMDs compared to Alcos definitely seem to not have as much of a turbo lag issue, which is why a lot of the older Alcos smoke so bad. A GMD is an EMD dipped in chocolate, but what does that mean? The Tyco Canadiana C430s are becoming hard to find and expensive compared to the Tyco models. I have not had that problem. I find in the Ottawa Valley they seem to be a dime a dozen. Maybe I should start listing them on eBay because apparently there's a lot of demand. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny because the other way, or maybe it's because the American market is bigger, but the Spirit of 76 locomotives are common even at Canadian train shows. Like there's been a ton of Canadian train shows where I found, the Tycho C 430 Spirit of 76 locomotives and the 630s. I kind of don't like how I can't hear anything other than your voice. I'm gonna try everything I can to try to fix that. I thought it was a glitch last time. I think right now it's some sort of a noise canceling feature, but I completely agree. Being able to hear the trains is important. I've just already tried to go through all the settings, both on my phone and also on my computer, to see if I could change that, and I couldn't. So I don't really know what else to do. I meant maple syrup Canadian EMD. Is there actually much of a difference between the Canadian engines and the American counterparts, though? Because I have this locomotive right here, and this was a Swedish engine, but secretly this was actually a SW 1200, basically in more of a Scandinavian sort of look. Do you still have any Rio Grande locomotives? I was running one earlier. Unfortunately, I think I might have cooked up the motor a little bit because it was running fine, and then all of a sudden it stopped, and it wasn't smelling too good. I'll have to try to figure out if I can throw a new motor in that. Maybe I can save it. I don't know. At first, I thought the lack of sound was due to freshly lubed locomotives. No, I've been running tons of noisy engines on here. It's probably built-in background noise dampening software. A lot of newer phones run it by default when you use the built-in mics. An external mic might help. Well, this is the same phone that I've been using for several months now, and it didn't do this in this previous live stream, so I don't know if it's an update to the YouTube app or if it's an update to the iPhone. I don't think I had updated my software, but it's possible. I don't know if you can actually use an external microphone with the YouTube app though. Let me I can try to plug one in, but I'm pretty skeptical it's gonna work. All right, I'm plugging in the microphone in 3, 2, 1. Let me know if you hear any difference. Yes? That'd be sweet if this glorious sound, really. No way. Okay, well that's good to know because I've tried to use an external microphone with the YouTube app before. It didn't work in the past, so that's great to hear. Excellent. Well, I'm very happy to hear about that. Thanks for the idea. I didn't even notice the lack of noise until someone pointed it out. It does sound better now. Well, this should be the best live streaming sound quality ever because this microphone it's got a dead cat on it, and it's also just a lot better than the original. Hear it. Check, check. Is this thing on? I'm psyched about that. New era of high sound quality. I guess now that I got the sound back, I can try to actually run sound with these two engines. I can finally hear the trains in the background. I thought it was just me. It's so great when there's just a solution like that. I'm really excited to watch this part of the live stream and the replay later and see what the difference is. Honestly, your past live stream's audio was fine. I don't think you needed an external mic. I mean, I tend to agree for the live streams before the weird noise canceling was happening. But yeah, I do agree. Like when I was watching the last live stream where it was doing this weird noise canceling thing, it was weird. Can you get a... Yeah. The sound quality is going to be so high, I'm going to be able to do live ASMR videos. I'm going to go completely quiet as the train goes by so you can hear all the clicking noises and stuff in all of its glory. Can you do two SD70 ACs together? One forward, one backward. I don't know if I have two I can run together. Curious what your plans are for the cutoffs on the mountain. I think I'm going to extend the mountains just to kind of blend the scene together. Maybe just keep the external mic handy in case the mics decide to be weird. Software is funny sometimes. Well, I usually don't even take this microphone out of the basement because I just use it for recording down here. But I actually have an identical microphone to this one and a replacement wire and everything, just in case this one ever breaks. Because if any of you ever have made any kind of video production, like if you've ever produced any kind of video, at some point you do deal with equipment failing on you. Works perfectly the day before, the next something has changed and it just goes kaput. So for a lot of the stuff for running the channel and making the YouTube videos, I just have backups ready to go in case something like that happens. I think your external mic is purposely reducing the background noise since it's intended to focus on voice. Well, it's also a directional microphone, so if I do this, the trains should be a lot louder and my voice should kind of sound distant. I'm frankly sort of surprised the microphone just started working too, because when I film videos, I actually have to, with this specific microphone, plug it in and then open up an app so that it works with the regular camera app. So it's remarkable that it all just kind of clicked together like that. This is the kind of technology. This is how the technology should work. Like this is when people talk about computers revolutionizing the future. That's what it should be. You just plug something in and then it works. Don't feel bad, SMT. It's all trial and error. Your viewers will appreciate your efforts in improving the quality. Well, I appreciate hearing that. I wish I had known about this earlier, though. That would have been great. But yeah, better late than never. New thing on the SMT live stream is the model railfan view. Yeah. Anyway, I think I'll probably finish off the live stream pretty soon because it is starting to get sort of late, but I'll do a few more of these pass-bys. I also don't know where my phone battery is at. It was fully charged by when I started off the live stream, but if the stream mysteriously drops, you'll know why. The next thing Harrison will add is multi-camera views and surround sound. It's gonna be like the Truman Show down here. I'll have cameras everywhere. We got an abandoned train on the abandoned track. Yeah, it's about time. I need to put the abandoned bridge back in place too. What is the radius on your mainline curves? The shortest radius on the outside circuit is 22, and the rest is 24 and above. On the inside circuit, I think it's 21 radius in one spot, and the rest is 22. iPhones can be annoying for that. Not all third-party accessories work. Yeah, well, the thing I found with using an iPhone with a third-party microphone is that it will work if you use the Lightning port, but if you have USB-C, you have to install an app to get it to work. I don't know why they changed that. But the other thing with the iPhone is that they're very picky about the cable. If you use a OEM adapter, it will work, but if you use a aftermarket adapter, the microphone often won't work. Probably some stuff Apple engineered into it so that people don't use third-party stuff, which is kind of naughty. This is my favorite view. It's kind of a good advantage of the main line. You run the big boy, but the big boy unfortunately is not working at the moment. I tried to run it in a previous live stream and was having some electrical issues, so I'll have to fix that. I should probably do a live stream in the near future where I just fix all the engines that I haven't been able to run in live streams because they've had different problems. Apparently, the coaches for the Appalachian Limited, I think, are 1970s. They're old Mantua Tyco 72 coaches with lead paint on metal frames. What would you say is their age? Mantua Tyco, I don't know, maybe 60s? I wonder what the scenery just off the table would be. Well, I already have scenery for it. It's a gully. I just have to reinstall it. Do you have any Pennsylvania passenger cars? I think I have at least 2. Dunderville needs a blizzard so you can run the rotary plow. Yeah, that would be fun. Oh, you mean... Okay. Yeah, I don't know where the gully is going to go. I mean, I could extend it, but... I don't know. I'm kind of just making this part up as I go along. All right, well, I think I'm going to finish off the live stream. Thank you all so much for joining in this evening. I'm just going to read off a few of the last comments here, and then I think I'll call it a night. Broad sweeping corners makes me think it would probably be a shoreline. That would kind of make sense. Could be a gully that levels out as it gets near the storage yard. Yeah. I think the gully, I'm going to try to build it a little bit higher than it was before. So, I mean, the depth of the previous gully, it looked kind of cool, but I feel like it was maybe a little bit too drastic. So for the new one, I think, well, the new one, which is going to be the old one, I'm just going to raise it up maybe 3 or so inches just so that it's a little shallower. I feel like that's going to look better. Where's the circus going to go on the layout? I've been trying to figure that out myself. I think it's going to be added there. And then I'm going to reroute the road and stuff. I think it's possible to do that. All right, well, I think I'll call it a night there. Thank you all so much for joining in this evening. As usual, I appreciate having all of you in here, and thanks for all the suggestions of running different trains, and thanks MRB for the microphone suggestion. That was very helpful. Anyway, we'll call it a night. Bye, everyone.